Hi, and welcome to Say Grace, Food for Thought and Hospitality. I'm Steve Palmer, and I invite you to join me as we explore the stories behind leaders in the hospitality industry and beyond. Say Grace is a place to reflect, connect, and savor thoughtful narratives. Everyone has a seat at our table. So pull up a chair and let's discover the transformative power of hospitality together. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're not too hungover. I hope you had, most of you were working, let's be real. I hope that you had a fruitful New Year's Eve. I hope your guests were well behaved and grateful. But you know, it's that time of year where we've looked back, now we're looking forward. I got to ask our guest over the last year some great questions about trends. That's such a buzzy word, but what we hope for the new year, what we hope for our industry. And I'm going to be giving you little clips about things that we want to leave behind in 2025, things that we hope will happen in 2026, and really just hopes for the enduring power of hospitality. Thank you all as we usher in the new year. I can't wait. It's going to be a great year on Say Grace. There's some amazing guests, interviews that are already in the can. We'll be out on the road from California to New York to everywhere in between as we continue to unpack the transformational power of hospitality and those that are delivering it. Have a great year, everyone, and Happy New Year. What's your hope for the hospitality industry as you look into 26, 27?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be in the hospitality industry running this Greenfield farm.
Yeah.
That people who are drawn to this field and wish to practice in this field are compensated fairly and lead rich and beautiful lives.
I hope that the hospitality industry continues to grow and professionalize, and that
Amen.
and people that work in it and the people that are guests of these spaces understand that it's a business and it continues to get even more professional. You know, I think we're a long ways away from those days of like restaurants as pirate ships.
The Wild West.
There's a few pirate ships left,
Yeah.
but you know, those pirate ships have now become, you know, sleeker vessels, and they're banding together more into flotillas, and I think that I think it's fascinating to see what's going to shake out over the next few years as you have these super dynamic creatives, but you also have more operators like you who are coming in and sharing your knowledge and gifts with people.
Yep.
And people are looking at this more as a business and more as a you know, the bottom line too. So I think that's going to bode well for the industry for sure.
You know, for some reason, I think about people that are rude and don't let you in traffic when they could just wouldn't set them back just to do a little act of kindness. But I think that little act of kindness is something that doesn't happen a lot, you know. And I think that it can be just as easy to be kind and considerate. And I think that you know, part of, you know, teaches people to, when they're on the phone, to have a smile. And I think that, you know, that we all can learn from that and be reminded of that. And there's a kind of a gentle welcome that you feel when you're with old friends, and that you don't have to perform, but that you want to share maybe something that you found. Maybe it's a persimmon, and you, hey, man, try this.
Right.
And yeah.
I would love for cooks to have a career where they're treated as professionals, where they're paid as professionals, an industry where restaurant employees can put money into retirement, and forecasts for stuff like that, where restaurant employees can buy homes and have families. And I want restaurant work to not be something that you do between jobs or between careers.
Right.
I want people who are really, really good at it and really, really passionate about it and spend every waking hour trying to make our guests happy. I want them to be taken care of. And I think it's really important for the longevity of our industry, our restaurants, to make sure that they're taken care of.
That we do a better job of communicating to our guests at the national level that we have undervalued ourselves for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a titanic reset. Food is expensive. Food in a restaurant's expensive. The costs are expensive.
Right.
And we are going to recalibrate. We are a splinter industry of hundreds of thousands of little micro businesses.
Right.
There is no national leadership. The NRA is a joke.
Yeah.
And as a founder of the Independent Restaurant Coalition, which we started right after COVID, I am ferociously dedicated in other parts of my life to making sure that the consumer understands this. We're in the middle of what is a wave of national closures. I don't think the economy looks very bright for the next couple of years. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And we are lousy at telling our own story collectively.
Good Lord, we
group,
are. Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So I try to tell that story so that in the hope that enough consumers hear my voice that says, look, yeah, it's goofy, but $12 chicken is not sustainable.
Right.
And I do think on the flip side of that, we are going to. You ever see Blade Runner?
Oh yeah, of course.
So at one point they're eating everything. It's like Japanese style. Everything is little 12-seat counters. I think large. I think that we're going to enter an era where everything is small, because the costs of doing it are better. It's safer economically.
Right.
It's a safer play.
Okay.
But I think we have to educate consumers. I think we
Yes.
need a national voice, and I think we have to replace the NRA with something that speaks for everyone, NRA members and all the independents,
Right.
and can truly communicate exactly what's going on so our customers understand. I read all these articles like, people in restaurants suck now and service is
I
bad
know, it
and all the rest of that.
drives me nuts.
And then at the same point, I hear people in restaurants all over say, what the fuck? It's like Winterman's point.
Yeah.
I get it. He's been beaten to death by the new guest, model.
Right.
And I'm like, fuck. Okay, I get you. It's bad. We have to close that gap. Right? Guests are angry at restaurants, and they raise their prices too. And restaurants are like, oh my God, we have to survive. We weren't making money on it. We've been making an 8% margin.
Yeah.
If I was making or 5% margin or 3% margin, if that was happening at any of my other 8 or 9 businesses that I own, I would be like, yeah, we're closing.
You're shutting it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So people have to come to understand each other and understand what the nature of buying food out is. I think we have too many restaurants in America. I'm really, COVID changed everything. It
Yeah.
got people hooked on takeout. Everyone started doing it. And, for a lot of restaurants, that's not sustainable.
No.
And I want people to cook more at home because I think it's better for human development. But I'm a restaurant guy.
Yeah.
I do want them to go out 2 to 3 times a week and
Yeah.
brunch on Sunday or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And they have to want to do that. And
Right.
that want is decreasing. People are going out less to restaurants, and when they do, they're spending less money. So there's a whole bunch of gaps that you can see statistically give me great pause. We need to heal that.
Got it. Trends from 25 that you'd like to see go away, and any trends in 26 that you see coming?
Trends from 25. You know, I am not a huge fan of the reviews on social media in a parking lot with a dashboard cam, the mukbang, you know,
Yeah.
of like people just digging into a meal and then, you know, giving their critique of it. It can be transformational for businesses and driving customers, but I just don't need to see people shoving food in their faces,
I agree.
in their cars,
Yeah.
you know, and that's not for me anymore. So I would hope that would go away.
You know, in some ways, I feel like, especially when I was spending a lot of time growing SFA, I didn't spend enough time with Jess and I didn't spend enough time with Blair, but I didn't totally screw it up either.
Oh, I just wrote a column of that on my Substack that came out the other day.
I subscribe, but I have not read.
You should. John Winterman wrote a column in Food and Wine, and I love him. He's great. His
Right.
restaurant in New York City, France. I mean, he's an amazing hospitalitarian and great human being, very bright. And he wrote an article saying for Food and Wine on their website, saying that because the Bear and Will Guidera's unreasonable hospitality, customers want Patty Lupone to descend from
I read that
a moon.
article.
And I was, because I'm a sober person and because I try to incorporate hospitality and be there for people, do the thing that is unreasonable, letting the lady behind me in the coffee line
Right.
go first, I had a visceral reaction to it.
I didn't like it.
And I wrote a comment that said, "You're not getting it." And I said to him in the piece, I said, when you're writing this, you even almost go out and say how restorative and glorious it is to do something for another human being and give them an experience or a piece of one. It's not about the grand gesture. It's giving the kid the warm cookie with when the adults are having dessert. It's calling a cab or an Uber for an elderly couple and saying, "Oh, no, we have your address. We got this. This is on us," or
Right.
whatever. It's a rainy night.
Right.
Topping off someone's glass with, wine but not charging them for it because they're halfway through their entree, and instead of selling them another glass, the upsell, the hard sell, you just give them another inch of wine in their glass, and and they get it, and it's just like, wow, what a lovely little touch. It basically costs nothing.
Right.
And yet that could be the moment that someone's like, "Oh my God, what a thoughtful thing." And that thoughtfulness is transformative, yes, for the person who is the recipient, but as Robert Egger, one of my gurus and the founder of DC Kitchen, and he's Jose's guru and one of mine, it is not always about, I'm paraphrasing some of his most famous thinking. Right. It's not about the recipient. It's about the transformation of the giver.
No, but I will say because of getting back to that, like I have a heavy diet of media. I'm reading. I've got loads of magazine subscriptions. I'm reading.
Me too.
All the time.
I have so many subscriptions.
And I've always found it essential to stay just broader, kind of culturally aware of what's happening in the world. What is trending? I don't like that word, but like, what are people thinking about? What's working? That might be everything from like what show is up at the Whitney to what's doing well on Broadway. Because I think if you can get a understanding culture in a more broad sense, you can. I think it informs my decisions that I make
totally.
in the restaurants.
100%.
You know, and so I think I don't know what the hell I was saying, but
It's keep
um,
going. It's all
just
good, man.
just that like I like to try to get a sense of like I try to read the tea leaves and see where we're going, and I think what's in the future, what does excite me at the moment is some of the I'm there's part of me, there's the nostalgic romantic in me that likes to think that I would have a restaurant where you call and it's written in the book ledger and
yeah.
stuff. But this is not the world we're living in anymore. That would be possible if it was a mom and pop and I was there, right?
Right.
But what does excite me is some of the burgeoning tech around restaurants that does not disrupt the customer facing, connection and experience, but in the back end allows us to make better decisions, allows us to be more profitable, allows us to communicate with our customers in a more impactful way. And so I've always been, I've kind of considered, I'm not a techie person, but I track a lot of that stuff. And for example, we were the first people to use Resi in Charleston,
Right.
and I consider myself like an early adopter to some of this tech stuff. And I invested in Blackbird, and I'm bullish on that. And so I'm hopeful that the future, the future looks very tech
Oh, yeah.
inflected,
Very.
will provide us with some tools to make our jobs easier, better, more fun. We can provide for more people, both employees and customers. And so that to me is like, as we look ahead to the year, it's like what tools will be created to give us more time on the to spend more time on the human side.
Amen.
And find tools that can help us deal with some of the back end and administrative and all the stuff that the less sexy part.
Right.
I'm excited about that.
Me too. And I also think it just makes for a bright future for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more disconnected we become on these, I think the more people will crave breaking bread, sitting at a table.
Yes.
The funny thing is, you caught me right before I'm about to do all the trend research.
I know.
on-
I know. It's that time of year.
You know what? I want the trend to be kindness, and you get that Instagram dish, but I want the trend to be sticking around to have the rest of the menu. I really,
Right.
really want that. I want more stuff in the NA space because I drink, but I dabble in and out of that. I want more and more, like, I feel like there's just going to be more and more of those. I think THC, depending on how the laws are by the time this airs,
Right.
I think there's going to be a lot more like sort of THC stuff, less of that sort of fuzzy wellness kind of thing, that's
Yeah.
great, whatever like that. But, I think there's going to be more sort of clarity of food because people had this almost like fake wellness kind of stuff. I think a return to a lot of simplicity. I think there's going to be a lot more just like food over fire, and just
I
like
love
really
it,
simple
yeah.
smoke flavors and all that stuff. I think that's going to be big. But yeah, I would be really happy if some of these like fake viral moments went away and we just had the real food back.
I like that. What does the word hospitality mean to you?
Hospitality, I think about my mother always having some extra food in case a friend or somebody dropped by. There was always a welcome, a real, please join us, sit down at our table. Hospitality is anticipating what someone might want or need, and it's sharing that in a way that makes your guest feel very cared for. Hospitality is, the energy that you bring to your guest, and that whether it's subconscious or conscious, that they recognize that they're being cared for.
I was gonna say kindness, but that's not it. It's looking up. So that I'll say that it's looking up. It's like when you walk in a restaurant or you walk in the presence of another person, even if that person is busy doing something else, they acknowledge your presence and say that I saw you for a moment and I'll be right with you. Or if you're deep in a conversation with a friend and the other person is trying to get your attention, you look at them, you acknowledge them. It's looking up.
Okay. I like that.
Hospitality to me is making people feel happy and welcome. And, hospitality is something that can be trained, but also there's some people who have it innately inside them, and it's something that, you know, that's what we do, is we make people happy, and that makes us happy.
Yeah.
And if you can make people happy and you're happy yourself, like, that's a pretty good gig.
That's a pretty good gig.
Hospitality. Well, obviously very different from service. I feel like you know it when you feel it. And I've always, you know, and I'm the culture, you know, the guy with the bullhorn talking about culture with my team, especially now, like more my director of operations, who then kind of disseminates my, I guess, what I'm saying. But I think it's when you've got sort of a selfless concern for the comfort and enjoyment of someone else, with no expectation of receiving anything in you know, the pride you get of making someone else feel good. That's where like hospitality happens.
I love that.
And you know, so I'm that's important. It's one thing you have to do. You have to take the food order, put it into the computer correctly, bring it in a timely manner, bring them the check when they need it, check them out, right? And that's all, of course, like that's number one thing. But like that is not enough. There has to be that layer of grace, to use, you know, to bring it back to you, grace, care, comfort, concern. And it needs to be genuine, and you got to hire for that, because not everybody has that in their DNA, you know?
Not at all.
And that's
most resumes aren't going to tell you that.
no way. Yeah, so you try to discern that in the interview phase, and then you know, time will tell if people are. Some people just like to engage and make other people happy, you know, and like I'm bummed out if other people are bummed out. And so I'm like, I like for people to, I like a vibe. I like smiliness. I like happiness. I like comfort. I like welcoming. I like inclusiveness. And so that's what, you know, to me, that's hospitality.
I love thinking about this kind of thing, and it's one of those things, because you have service, which is about getting like all those tiny things,
technical stuff. Yep.
It's the warm fuzzy. It's that ineffable thing. It's that like that feeling when you sit down and you relax and you know that you are wanted there. And it's, you know, and to me, it's a lot of times it's that first visit, but it's that second visit back. You know, and you feel like, oh, this is my place. Where like when you're leaving, you think like, oh, I can't wait to come back here. Like that's hospitality to me. It's that sense of like, you're welcome here. We want you here. We want you back here. Like that's the thing to me.
I love that. What are you afraid of at this point in life in your career? You've accomplished so much. Anything keeps you up at night about our industry? Or anything that keeps Frank Stitt up about Frank Stitt?
I think that if I don't recognize fear very much, and if it, I really do want, you know, my father is a surgeon. He was very demanding, and I hope that I can have great expectations for people around me, people that I care about, but that I can have some tenderness, but you know, I just hope that we don't lose our curiosity, our desire to be curious, and you know, I think that when you're, again, it's this pursuit of good things, of trying to be honest and honorable and truthful. I think that those are elements that, you know, that we can help, and that's what you do with a lot of your work. And I think that maybe that is about mentoring a little bit more. This morning I was mentoring some of the UAB Birmingham cooks, their chef, because we're going to teaching them how to do a few dishes that they're starting tomorrow, and wow, you know, and we did this at the UAB hospital, and so maybe by us sharing some of those things, that some of that love, it's almost like Dostoevsky, can go out into the world and create more love.
I'm afraid of the coarseness of the world right now and the lack of dialogue.
Right.
I'm afraid of division. And I think that it feels at times like this world is spinning out of control in a way that we might not be able to rein it back in.
Right.
And so I think on a general level, that's a pretty broad, vague, and scary thing, but
Shared by many.
Yeah,
I think.
the divisiveness of this world and what that might mean for my daughters, that definitely occasionally keeps me up at night or wakes me up at night.
Right now, perimenopause. Currently,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
hot
that's
flashes,
fair.
perimenopause.
Yeah.
That I worry about the people I love, and
Okay.
and that's the thing. You know, my husband, who I have eyes on right now. Last year, we were at the Food and Wine Classic in Charleston, and I had to turn around and come right back because he called me having just had a heart attack, and I saw my biggest fear in the entire world happen, and then the great grace and joy of getting to lay eyes on this man these months later, to see him come into Charleston Place the other night. I sprinted across that
Aw,
lobby
I love
to
that.
this man and into his arms. I mean, that was my biggest fear come true, was that. So some stuff doesn't scare me too much anymore, other than that happening again. I fear losing. I never want to lose the awe and wonder and the joy of being able to connect with the people I love. I never want to get jaded. And I want everybody to be okay. I think that's what
Yeah,
I worry about.
me too.
Things not working out for my child.
Mm.
That's really hard as a dad.
Yeah.
With a son that has a lot of developmental issues.
Yeah.
I have a child who is normative, and it's taught me more about unconditional love and patience than anything to have a child in that position.
Yeah.
Who isn't going to go to college, who I've never played catch with.
Right.
Wasn't what I counted on. Was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I love him more than anything in the world. And it's given me an opportunity to practice real love and real acceptance, and at the same time not being willing to settle. I do a lot of work. There's been some rumblings of it on the internet. So I'm joining the board of Autism Speaks, and I do a lot of work in this area that I don't really talk about a lot, because as a parent of a non-normative child, I think it's my obligation to, because I mean, I've hemorrhaged every dollar that I've ever made on taking care of my child. It's just circumstantial. But what scares the shit out of me is the other hundreds of thousands of parents across the country in the same situation as me, who have to warehouse their children in public hospitals a week at a time just to get a respite, who don't have the access to private educational consultants and doctors the way I do, because insurance doesn't pay for it.
Right.
And who don't have the ability to pay for the private help that when he was young I was able to pay for. Older, it's different at every age group. And he's a work in progress. I really feel he's close to figuring out how to do things, but I have to make sure he knows how to take care of himself before I die. And so it's him turning it, but it's also like, what happens if I get hit by a car?
Right.
What happens if, like James and Charles, like my number gets called?
Right.
like that is the stuff. Well, that's the only thing that keeps me up at night. Everything else, I know if the world fell apart, I'll sell soup on the corner. I'm not worried about taking care of me and
Right.
the dogs and
Right.
whatever.
Right.
You know, the one thing about restaurants that I hate more than anything else, and I know you have a ton of experience with this. The one thing that I hate about restauranting is dealing with contractors and architects and banks.
Yeah.
I hate that stuff. Because what we do in restaurants is we solve problems.
Yes, all day long.
And that's what you have to do.
Right.
The doors are going to open at 5 no matter what.
Right.
And so those problems have to get fixed. And then once 5 o'clock rolls around, you're going to have 200 more problems.
Right.
And we're going to solve it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because you have to. This lady is pissed that her fish is cold. This lady's pissed that her pasta came out before her husband's sea bass,
Right.
so on and so forth. We just solve those problems just constantly. But in construction, if there's a problem, everybody throws their hands up and they say, well, you call us back when the problem's fixed. And it's like, no, don't walk away. I need all of you here to solve this problem.
Right.
Let's solve it right now.
Let's solve it.
And they don't
I'm
work like that.
dealing with that right now.
They don't operate like that.
Yeah.
And it's maddening to me.
It is me too.
And so those are the things. It's the things that I can't, as much as I want to control it, it feels like I can't control it.
Right.
And I think if I had maybe like a project manager or somebody who's really good at this stuff, but I'm not. And I didn't come up in construction. And so that's the stuff that really irritates me. For the longest time, the stuff that would keep me up at night was making sure that if I had an employee who wasn't extremely happy at work, even if they were just like having, a rough day, that would keep me up at night. And because I care so much about every single one of those employees, and that I would stay up all night long, and I'd be like, oh man, he's mad. And it would upset me, and it would upset me until I came in and I talked with them. But as I've gotten farther along in my career, I've now realized that everyone's going to have off days. Everyone's going to have bad days, and including myself. And so, I talk with them, I address it with them, but now I can sleep at night knowing that we're all going to have those days.
Right.
And so I'm in a much better state than I was,
Good.
5 years ago when I was so worried about, oh, this guy's not having a great day or she's not having a great day.
Right.
And now I sleep well.
My business is going under
Me too.
and losing all my
Every day of my life.
not being able to provide for my family.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing I struggle with. And I am constantly telling my wife, I'm like, okay, if the businesses go under, and especially because COVID, right? Like
Oh, yeah,
my
God.
worst nightmare
Yeah.
came true.
Oh yeah.
And like, God forbid anyone should have to like experience that thing. But it's, overnight, it's like, oh, my restaurants are
Boom.
closed.
Done.
I sold my house and I was going to move to Kentucky because I was like, well, I'm out of business.
Right.
Restaurants are not meant to last more than a few days without doing any revenue, let alone a couple months.
Right.
Obviously, we know how that all worked out, and there was monies and takeout and all this kind of stuff. And when we did reopen, it came roaring back.
Yeah.
Those were very good couple years
Yeah.
post COVID. But that's what keeps me up at night is not the business is not working or going out of fashion, people not liking them, people having a bad time. I mean, I start my day in the most dangerous, stressful way, which is opening my email and reading the shift notes and the resi, because I take that stuff so personally, and when it's like it can ruin my day if a customer had a bad time.
Oh yeah.
And of course, it's like the first thing I do, and I'm in touch with my team, is we have to reach out to this person, and we first need to like acknowledge what we did wrong, and we need to apologize, and we need to invite them back, and like then what did they say, and I'm obsessed about customer satisfaction, and so that like definitely that keeps me focused.
I was emailing. I got an email. I think when you make yourself a public person, you're a public person. You're accessible.
You invite a little bit of that
you
in.
You do, and so it doesn't. My former HR director was like, Steve, like every employee has my cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, you make yourself too available, and I'm like, but that's the deal. If you ask people to trust you one way, you've got to be willing to hear it when you didn't do the thing.
For sure.
And somebody had checked into one of our hotels and did not have a good time.
Yeah.
And so
You heard
yesterday
about
afternoon,
Yeah.
I was, emailing this and let's go there and call the person, invite them back for a stay.
For sure.
The same thing.
You got to
You never escape that.
You
but,
don't. Misery loves company because it makes me feel better. Because I tell you a recent story. I was in Nashville. I went to the new Pastis in Nashville.
I have not been. I heard it's booming.
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 It was a Tuesday night, and it was crushing
Right.
and beautifully done. Of course, Keith has gotten involved and helped him design those restaurants, but I think Steven is really like Steven Sarb.
Yeah.
And his organization is operating Pastis now. And it was a cool room, whole thing. Front of the host staff was amazing. We had a bad experience with a rude bartender for out of kind of for no reason. And it was I don't like send feedback much, but I also really value when we get what I call reasonable feedback.
Right.
Because we always, we collect and aggregate all negative feedback, but sometimes negative feedback, you're in this business long enough, you can read it and say, that's a person that we cannot make happy.
Right.
And
correct.
frankly is not our customer.
Right.
But that's not always. Sometimes it's that, and we say, let it be. They're just not our customer. And there's plenty of times when I'm like, this is a reasonable person and we fucked up.
Yeah.
And we need to reach out to them.
Absolutely.
And so when I give feedback, which is rare, I'm always like, you need to be as reasonable as possible and acknowledge all the great stuff. And so I had this bad time, not a terrible time, but it reminded me, I'm like, oh, even a guy who is at the top of our game and one of the best restaurateurs in the country, if not the world, is capable of
Absolutely.
missing the mark.
Absolutely.
Which makes me feel a little bit better.
Ditto.
And really that was it. That was all I was going to say is that, no one is batting 1,000
Hell no.
every day of
On
the week.
any given day.
But what matters is that you never get too big for your britches,
Yep.
and you take all that stuff and you take it and it's important to you, and you dig into it and you take it serious. And I'm just like constantly reminding myself, it's like, just because you have a busy restaurant doesn't mean you can't screw it up. And that you're not, so you better, I'm just like constantly telling
Right.
myself, you better stay on top of things because you're not guaranteed to be in business tomorrow,
Mm-mm. I feel like I'm one bad decision away from blowing it all up.
For sure.
All the time.
Absolutely. Same.
So what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for my friends that I've made across time and across geographies. Like, we talked earlier about the idea that like you're friends with Ryan Pruitt and Steven Strajewski, and they live in New Orleans, you live in Charleston, and yet
Right.
that distance doesn't feel great.
Right.
And, working in the South over the last 30 years, I've contributed to a network of people, and they've contributed to my world, and I feel like we hold each other up. We take care of each other.
100%.
And, it's only with age that you recognize that. Hopefully when you're young, you move through the world with a certain grace and kindness. But it's only when you look back when you're older. I'm 62 now. So I look upon my life as this web of connections built across years and built across distance. And it's not like I invested in it. It's not like, I put it on a layaway plan to come pick it up later. It's just a genuine recognition that I'm thankful for all those people who I may not see, every month or even every year. But when I step back into the world with them, when I step into a conversation with them, it comes easy, like this conversation has
Right.
come.
I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I work in a business where we get to give people the best meal of their lives. That's a really powerful thing. And, it's such a deeply emotional connection with someone. And it's part of the reason why we have that open kitchen at Chubby Fish, is because I want the cooks to feel that energy off the guests. And I want the guests to feel that energy off the cooks. I want the cooks to be able to set a plate in front of someone and look them in the eyes and watch as they eat their first bite. I want that connection. And so I'm just really thankful that I get to work in a business, because there's not many businesses like this where you get to have that deep pull of the heartstring, and we get to have that every single day, and that's really powerful.
Oh God, so many things. How long do we have? So my great grandmother had an awesome saying that has informed a lot of the way that I commune with the people I love. She would say, you got to pass your roses to the living. So when you have a nice thought or you think something nice about people, you tell them, right? And I will even say, we were in LA recently. I was with my wife and we were at a coffee shop, and this guy walked in and he was had such a cool vibe. He was dressed really well. And I was just I was like, dude, your whole vibe is awesome. I was like, you look so handsome today. You're killing it. So I like to put it out there,
Right.
and pay those compliments. But, I'm thankful for my family. I have an incredible family. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for the team that I work with, especially some of my long-term lieutenants that I've developed quite a relationship with. I've traveled with, I've mentored, have been through, thick and thin with. I'm thankful to live in a city like Charleston where we can do what we do and be successful at it. I'm thankful for my success. I'm thankful for my upbringing. I'm thankful for the love of my parents. I'm thankful for my 2 kids. I'm I could go on and on. I feel like a very, very lucky person, and I'm just thankful for for this life.
Me too.
So I had a moment last night that you just made me think of. We were all at this tailgate, and I ran into Nick Pahakis, who I had not seen for ages. I was there with, I think Sean Brock was part of this huddle as well. And Manit Chauhan, her husband, wonderful. Vivek, my friend Stephanie Burt, who's from around here. My work wife, Ashley Day, my lovely boss, Sean Flynn. And we were somehow, I said, everybody get in here. And they thought it was doing for a selfie. I'm like, no, we're doing this as a hug. And so we all got together and we were together. And then Vivek said, he's like, I know this is corny. Can we all have our energy here together and wish goodness out into the world? And it made me feel so good. But to be in that circle of people and to have that people around me who felt free to say, hey, to first of all, be in the hug, and then to come back to the hug for that's what I'm grateful for.
Last question. So I wrote a book called Say Grace. That's the name of this podcast.
Yep.
In the South, probably everywhere, but Sunday supper at Grandma's.
Yes.
We would all hold hands. She would choose one of the grandkids to say grace.
Yep.
And really what you were saying is what you were thankful for.
Yep.
What are you thankful for?
Learning how to be the dog.
I want to know more about that, and we don't have time. But
Well, it's really simple.
right.
I'm selfish user of people and taker of things. At the root cause of that is I just wanted to be happy. I was never happy. I was always angry. I was the resentful, angry, awful person. I always wanted to be happy. How do you be happy? Brene Brown.
Love her.
Yeah.
Love her.
Brene said to me once, to be happy, you have to be truly empathetic. And I looked at her and I'm like, I don't even know what that word means. Like, truly, what does that mean?
Right.
Like, I am empathetic. I'm like, but I'm not happy. So I'm clearly not doing it right. And she, did the Brene Brown thing and said, like, go figure it out. And I was just like, fuck. And over the course of the next couple of years, I really focused on that. And, Hitler had a dog. One of the worst human beings to ever live. Irredeemable. But when he came home, the dog bounded to him and jumped in his lap and just sat with him on the couch. Noah crawled under the bed one day when he was like 4 or 5, and I lay down next to him. Instead of screaming at him, get out from under there, or trying to pull him out because you're going to hurt yourself, or whatever the other things I did, I just lay down and just sat there, and he kept kicking and breaking shit and underneath the bed. And then after like 10 minutes, he looked at me and he's like, "What are you doing, Dad?" I said, "I'm just being here with you." And he crawled out and he said, "That's silly." He was like 5.
Right.
And I read him a story and he went to bed. And I realized you got to be the dog. The dog is just pure empathy. The dog just sits there with you. It does not try to solve your problem. So if you tell me you're struggling with something, I don't say, "Well, Steve, here's how to fix it."
Right.
Because people operationalize before they co-regulate. Maybe you've already fixed it. You're just telling me the current story and you're about to get to the what I did was.
Right.
But I've interrupted you and told you. A lot of people, it's a version of mansplaining, right?
Yeah.
But if I just am like, "Oh my God, that's awful," and wait for you to either say, "Got any ideas on that?"
Right.
Or maybe you pause and then tell me the rest of the story or whatever, I'm co-regulating with you. I am being the dog. The dog's pure empathy. The fastest route to empathy is to be the dog. Don't operationalize with people. Co-regulate. Connect. Don't correct. Be the fucking dog. If you are the dog, who doesn't love their dog? Who doesn't love their dog?
I love that. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Say Grace, Food for Thought and Hospitality. We hope you join us next time as we continue to dive deeper into the inspirational stories about the transformative power of hospitality.